Today we are about to play the game called Ask a Black Dude. So let's go out to the street and take some questions.
Why do black parents name their kids such weird names? Like LaQuisha. It just doesn't make sense.
Okay, the reason that black people give our children a lot of more unique names, as you would say, is because we trying to find a way for us to identify with our culture in some type of way. Like, okay, for example, if you hear the name Bopa Ping, you're going to automatically know that that's an Asian person. If you hear the name Jose Gonzalez, you know that you're talking to somebody who's Latino. If you hear the name Madube Adobo, you're going to know, like, okay, that's like straight from the motherland, probably like Nigeria, somewhere in Africa. So at the end of the day, when you hear the name Brian, what do you think? Automatically, you think he could be black or white. Why is that? We need to separate ourselves so we can have our own culture, so we can have a more distinct name, some that's distinctive, that you could say, okay, if you hear the name Jaquanda, you're going to be like, oh, she's African American. You know what I'm saying? So that's our way. Like, the names don't supposed to sound right to someone of the opposite culture, because if you hear the name Jesus, you be like, hey, Zeus, like, it sounds like somebody named Zeus and somebody is calling them, hey, Zeus. What's up? You know what I'm saying? Like, but it don't supposed to sound. Bopa Ping sound like some shit that happens when you hit a xylophone. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what it sounds like, because that's not our culture. It doesn't supposed to sound correct to you. You get what I'm saying? And that's not even going against every other culture. And I'm not trying to be funny. It's just, that's the reality of it. We need something that's going to let us identify with each other as African American within our culture, because as we all know, our names was taken away from us back during slavery days. So now we're trying to, separate ourselves from that now, if that makes sense to you. Next question.
Why is it that Black Lives Matter concentrates so much on police versus black on black crime?
Oh, well, that's a dope question. I actually kind of like that question. For me to answer that question, I would have to say that we got to go back historically. The reason that you see black on black crime, of course, and it's not really just looked at like that, is because we know that comes from hundreds of years of conditioning. And we know that it's going to take something gigantic to change that. So Black Lives Matter is more focused on a problem that should be easily solved. You shouldn't be able to shoot and kill an unarmed man, no matter what color they are, because you should be held to a higher standard. And you killing the person that actually pays taxes. It might not be as much as another person, but they do actually pay taxes. If it comes in their house, paying for a house, they pay taxes on these things. So they actually paying the salary of the person who actually, that they fear. Like, you shouldn't have to be in fear every time you get pulled over. Like, there's a certain level of professionalism. I look at it like this. A police officer is not a hero to me, for the most part. A firefighter is a hero, because they don't discriminate on whoever is in the fire. They just go in and they get that person out the fire. As far as when it comes to Black Lives Matter, I don't agree with Black Lives Matter's techniques, but I do agree with them as a whole. Like, black lives do matter, and I don't even think that it should be necessary to make a statement like Black Lives Matter. Like, that is kind of pathetic when you really think about it. Somebody saying, like, I'm alive, I'm a breathing mammal, I matter. It's like, damn. So, but to look at the black on black crime thing, let's just say this before I end it. You got to go back. It's a thing called a Willie Lynch letter. Well, they put together a letter to give you a strategic way on how to make black people hate each other and hate themselves. And it worked. It actually worked. So if you want to blame someone for that, blame Willie Lynch, and then blame all the people who gunned down every black leader that emerged. The Malcolm X's, the Martin Luther Kings, the Medgar Evans. Like, these are people that emerged and said, okay, this is the way we need to do things so we can be successful. This is the way we can do things so we can be united and we can actually learn to live together and work with each other. And people actually started to listen to them, and then guess what happened? Someone killed them. So now we stuck with the Jesse Jacksons and the Al Sharptons who fraud. So of course you're gonna have misinformed people. Like when we were living in unity in this place called Tulsa, Oklahoma, they went up in planes and they dropped bombs on them, on the people that was united. We were like living in peace in Tulsa, Oklahoma. We had black banks, we had black schools, we had black housing, we had black everything, and we wasn't bothering anybody. And we were living in harmony. And guess what happened? Airplane came up, dropped bombs, killed everybody. Now we sitting in an area that we was redlined into, and everybody want to just poke fun at it. That's like going to the zoo and poking fun at that depressed bear that you see behind the cage, when we the one who put that bear behind that cage. So I hope that makes any sense to you. Next question.
Why do black and white people always have these gigantic issues? We're all just people in the first place.
Oh man, that's the easiest one out of the three. What I'm gonna say is the reason why black people and white people don't get along is because they don't understand. A lot of them are ignorant to the fact of history, and we know for a fact that they're not teaching the true history in schools. They teach us about slavery, they teach us about slavery being abolished, and they teach us about, they teach us a whole bunch of bullshit to keep us segregated, as far as in the mind. Because the truth is, white people, sorry you guys, a lot of you guys got bamboozled. It was way back when during the slavery time. They don't teach you this in school. Way back when during slavery, what happened is it was black people and white people. They was pretty much indentured servants together, and they lived in terrible conditions together. And then they started to bond with each other, and they wasn't thinking about race at all. They knew they looked different from each other, but they knew they had a common enemy. So when they figured that out and they started to move forward, the rich and the rich people, the rich and wealthy people started a plan to say, you know what? We're going to bamboozle these white guys. And they went to the white guys and they told them, look, we still going to treat you like shit. And you still going to eat garbage. And you still going to live in terrible conditions. But what we'll do is we'll treat you better than them people. And those people right there, you can treat them bad. And they went for it. Instead of going toward the revolution, which should have been happened, they went back toward, oh, okay, well, I'll take being treated like shit as long as I could treat them like shit. So it's still been working, and that's why they use the media. They got the liberal media, then they got the Republican media or right-wing media, and they just put out a bunch of racist films, or they'll put out something that's going to piss off the black people, or put out something that's going to segregate them from the white people, or it's never nothing out about unity if you really pay attention to it. So that's why black people and white people really don't get along, is because a lot of them don't know. Some of them still fell for the okie doke. And I don't see it changing no time too soon, because people ignorant and they not teaching anything that's going to stop the separation. So I hope that answers the question.
Drug dealing and killing is going on in my town. It don't take a killer to kill or a driller to drill. See, just being yourself is the definition of real.